come as you are does not mean do as you please. And
Yes,
that's the
yes,
kind of
yes.
rub that I think Paul is saying.
Is this Sunday church or is it a wedding? Because we're reading 1 Corinthians 13. That's right. Love is patient, love is kind. You've heard this one probably almost as many times as Psalm 23. So, Reverend Thorne, welcome back. Word Made Fresh, talking about this coming Sunday's text. And we are still in Corinthians. We were here last week. We're going to be here 2 more weeks. But this week takes us to the chapter we've all heard in one way, shape, or form. 1 Corinthians 13. Do I speak with tongues of angels? Am I a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal? Without love, I gain nothing. Love is this, love is that. Love never ends. Faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. That's a very brief summation of this chapter. What what
Great.
what do you want to point us to? What's going on in this chapter? How are you kind of approaching this? Is this a wedding text? Just help me out.
This is so not a wedding text. People should not be reading this at weddings. Um, it's a good text. I mean, it's about love, so you could read it at a wedding, but it isn't romantic love. It really is about how folks in community survive. And I'm calling I think the sermon is something like "Love: A Survival Guide," because we are not going to make it. I mean, we were talking about this church in conflict and all the tension last week, and Paul is suggesting that if they're going to make it, they're going to have to figure out how to love each other. Um, so, so yeah, it's not really a good text maybe for a wedding because it's assuming some things. It's assuming all the opposite of what is being laid out in this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the word here in this text is agape. There are three words in Greek for love:
Right.
philios, eris,
Mhm.
and agape. Philios is brotherly love.
Right.
Philadelphia might ring a bell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eris is kind of the more romantic, sexual love. That's probably the more wedding love. And then agape
Mhm.
is this unconditional love, largely used to describe the love God has for people, for creation, for all of us. And so this agape is the love we are seeing in this text. So yeah, not out of bounds to say at a wedding, but Paul wasn't thinking of weddings with this. Paul was trying to say something about the nature of God and this abstract concept that we desperately need in every aspect of our lives called love.
Right. And how this community was going to make it, how they were going to not only survive, but I think thrive. And in this particular instance, he lifts up love. But in doing my research, I learned that faith, hope, and love is an idea that he uses elsewhere, and he lifts up different things depending on the community. So this particular community at Corinth, love was the thing, but there are other places where he might lift up faith or he might lift up hope. Um, there's a there's a quote from C.S. Lewis that talks about worrying about love, and he basically says, just act like it. Don't waste time asking whether you love them. Just act as if you did. So it's such good teaching, I think, for faith communities. And I find it so fascinating, the whole enterprise of church. There's nothing else like it. And in the same way, I think we as humans show up in that space in ways that it's not like anything else. Like we don't show up at work or in our families in the ways that we show up in faith communities. And so I think Paul is saying to us, you've really got to focus and be quite disciplined about this practice of love if this community and this grand experiment is got a chance at working.
Yeah, because at its best, our faith communities invite us to bring our whole selves, the
Hmm.
mess and the tidiness, where we might put on certain clothes for work or have a certain voice or tone you use in certain situations. And it's not to say that we don't still have some sort of, personification we display in church spaces, but the goal is not to have to force a certain Sunday best, but to be just an authentic self. Bring all that you are in this community, mess and all, which is why love is the essential ingredient to keep us stitched together and heal us and to keep us connected in all the right ways. Otherwise, there's going to be envy and all these things that the text kind of points as the opposite here that'll
Mhm.
manifest. Which that never happens, right? I mean, impatience, envy. Oh, what else do we have on this list here? Arrogance, rudeness, boasting. Those things are never present in churches, are they?
Never. Not any that I've served. But but I'm stuttering because it's such a conundrum.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree that faith community church is where we come to be our fully authentic selves. And I think Paul is saying sort of what our colleague at Middle Church used to say, John Del Cueto, um, come as you are does not mean do as you please. And
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
rub that I think Paul is saying. Yes, we want you to bring the messy, let your hair down things that you would not bring into your workplace, or maybe it's not safe to bring in your family or your friends' circles. But at the same time, there are other people who are
Yes.
coming with their stuff. And so it doesn't mean that you can have attitudes and be impatient. And that is where I think we kind of go askew. People want to do the, well, this is me. This is, what you see is what you get kind of energy at church. But there's not the discipline of, it doesn't mean do as you please, say what you want, send the nasty emails to hundreds of people, um, call your colleagues, your fellow lay leaders out, personally attack folks, reveal things that you know that the entire community doesn't know. And you and I mean, we could tell stories about times, instances where that has happened. It would never happen in a workplace because people would be
Yeah.
fired. It would never happen at home because you'd be ostracized. And so I think we do a great job of authentic
Yeah.
self, but not a great job of um, not of holding back and being loving in the church community.
And that's just the what makes it so complicated, I think, because there is that invitation, all can
Yeah,
come as you are, but at the same time don't bring your nastiness, or come to have that healed or confronted. I mean,
right.
those who are oppressed come in, but those who are bringing oppression, check that at the door. Some things, that's that. I think that's where love is, that litmus test, which I also kind of feel like this is a bit of a subtweet Paul's got going on here when he's
Oh
talking
yeah,
to the community. Love is patient, love is kind, basically saying, you all in Corinth, you're not being patient, you're not being kind, you're full
right,
of envy, you're full of boasting, and let me just list what love is in contrast so you can stop doing that shit and you can start
right.
doing what we're supposed to do.
That's right. And no, Reverend Jim Keat did not just say the S word. Yes, he did.
No.
I love it. It's awesome. Yeah, yes. And again, that is the conundrum of the church, because you
Yeah.
do want people to come and be able to freely express what they're not able to freely express. But there's a responsibility that comes with that, being in community. Because and I know there are folks in the churches I've served who hate that I talk about healing and brokenness so much, but the reality is we are dragging stuff. I am dragging stuff. I'm dragging my little girl's stuff, and a lot of that has gotten worked out in therapy, but we've all got these deep wounds that get triggered in community. When we don't get our way, when we feel like we're not being seen, when we're made to feel that we don't belong, when our ideas aren't valued, when we put forward an idea and someone says, no, we're not going to fund that, or no, we're not going to do that, then all of our stuff starts coming up. Um, and then, we've got work to do. But what often happens in these spaces, and we've experienced it if you've been in church community long enough, um, are all the opposites, where people will attack one another, um, will be snarly and snarky that someone got something that they felt they should have gotten. So all of our needs are on display. The desire to be loved, the desire to be seen, the desire to be special, and Paul is asking us, like you said, it's like this big taffy pull to hold these two things together, and it's hard to show up fully and to be loving.
Yeah. Whew. Well, I cannot wait for this sermon. I feel like you are going to just help us see a text that we've all read or heard in so many ways and spaces and just be like, nope, it actually gives us a lens like this. It's not just that quaint, precursor to wedding vows. That's wonderful, but let's actually be challenged by it, be invited into it in a different way. This is gonna. They're all good ones, but I think this is going to be a particular good one as well. So everyone, get yourself to church on Sunday. You can join us in the room or online. Worship starts at 11 a.m. Special music at 10:30. You want to talk more about this text? Join us for open Bible study at 9:30. That happens in the room or online as well. Lots of opportunities. Virtual coffee hour after worship where you can talk with Reverend Thorne more about the sermon she preached. Basically, we got lots of ways beyond this video for you to talk about this text, and a lot of them happen on Sunday. So, yeah.
Yeah, let me also just say we are celebrating Older Adults Month on that Sunday as well. And one of the things I'm most excited about, I have spoken with the older adults in the church and recorded them sharing with us why they think love is the most
Ooh.
important gift in the church.
Ooh.
And so, really looking forward to hearing from our elders, our veterans of the faith, as Reverend Lynn Castile Harper calls them, their wisdom. And they have some really beautiful, poignant things to share with us. And that's going to be very special as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all of that is coming up on Sunday, so we hope you can join us. Info below. Find us in all the places, and we'll be back again. More Corinthians still to come in the upcoming weeks, so we'll see you next week to talk more about the next part of this narrative lectionary. See you then.